Welcome to my channel. So today's episode is to help farmers. And one of the difficulties of farming is money. And farmers have either a lot of money or no money. And there's not a lot of in between for them. In the process of large-scale agricultural farming, the systems that are used currently in America, at least, I can't speak for the rest of the world. In America, I live near the Salinas Valley, which is what we call the salad bowl of America, because we have the ability to create 4 crops of lettuce every year, along with a variety of other crops that are established because of our Mediterranean style climate and low rainfall. And in the process of having a low rainfall Mediterranean climate, we have conditions conducive to growing large amounts of leafy greens and crops. We can also grow other things like grapes, artichokes, garlic, a variety of trees, apples, peaches, pears, plums. Yet cash crops like lettuce are a main staple for farming in the local Monterey County area, because they can get 4 crops a year and they can make 4 sales a year off that crop. In the process of producing all this crop, there's a degradation of the land soils and the aquifers due to the farming practices. And this is not here telling farmers they're doing anything wrong, but their soils are depleting in nutrition and our aquifers becoming salted. We have what's called saltwater intrusion from the Pacific Ocean into the further and further inland, because the freshwater aquifer is being sucked out and it's leaving a vacancy for salt water to penetrate the subsoils. That being said, farmers put a lot of water on their crops, and then the water goes into the subsoil and then drains away into channels at the end of their farms, and then that goes straight to the ocean and gets dumped into the ocean with all their nitrates and nitrogen fertilizers and whatever else they put on their crop, with their biocides and chemicals. That goes into the ocean, and it goes into it through the Salinas River. And the Salinas River is, for Monterey County, a very large river. If you look at a Google map, the Salinas River is one of the rivers that's cutting the Monterey Bay Trench into the subsoils of Monterey Bay and creating one of the deepest trenches on the planet. So for farmers, we need to address a couple of things. One, water penetration into subsoils is got to be better than 2 inches. The last time I checked, if a farmer was getting 1 inch of penetration into subsoils, he was getting a regular crop that year. If he got 2 inches of penetration into subsoil, he was having a bumper crop that year. We need more than 2 inches of penetration into subsoil, so that way the farmers can have a longer standing crop and not have to water as much. To do that, the farmers need to modify practices, and they're not going to like hearing this. Farmers do not like change, but we're going to have some shifts of water coming, and we're going to need to address them. one of the things the farmers have to do, or would behoove the farmers to do, would be to put row crops in front of their fields on the windward side. In other words, nearest to the ocean. They need to put crops in that are tall to stop wind from going across their fields and taking away their soil and blowing it away as dust, as well as taking away the moisture and drying their fields out too fast. And they can start with small crops, and they can move into slightly larger and larger and larger, taller crops until they get the leeward effect of not having wind just evaporate moisture off the soil surface. That's one thing they can do. Another thing that can be done is they should never leave their soils called fallow. In other words, they should never leave them bare to sun. Leaving soil bare to sun, I've done this test. You have a thermometer, and you take the thermometer and you test the temperature of the soil at midday. And I found that in 97-degree heat at 4,500 feet up, that's almost 3/4 of a mile, in Idaho, the soil temperature was reaching, bare soil, no plants on it. The bare soil temperature was reaching 150 degrees. 6 inches away, I had a swale, and that swale had straw and wood chips on it. And I pulled the straw and the wood chips back, and I tested the temperature of the soil there, and the soil temperature came out about 76 degrees. It was almost an 80-degree difference in soil temperature. In the process of reducing soil temperature, you maintain the proper microbes in the soil, so you need less fertilizer, less water, and less nutrients put back into the soil the following year. Also, the crop that you put to keep it while it's fallow, you're no longer fallow, you're putting a cover crop on. The cover crop could be something like fava beans or cowpea, which you may not want as a crop for sale. You just want it to cover the land surface, so that way there's no bare soil to sun. It could also be clover, like Dutch clover. And when you turn that over, the fava beans or the vetch, hairy vetch, or the Dutch clover, or the mixture of those, it nutrifies the soil right before you plant your next generation of seeds for the crop you actually want for your cash flow. In doing so, there's all this fresh nutrient from the decaying plants that are now a soluble source of nutrition and nitrogen and organic matter for the crop that you actually want to become viable and sell for capital cash. In the process of that, we also can discuss diversification of field design. So tools are only so wide, okay? Their cropping tools are only so wide. They can't cover the whole field. So the proposal goes like this. You have your windward side crops that maybe you don't use for cash, but they could be cash crops that block the wind. They have an increasing layer effect till they get to a specific height where the wind passes over the field and doesn't disturb the field and create evaporation or pull the soil away, which is really expensive, by the way. An acre of soil in California is a lot more than an acre of soil just about anywhere else. So why would you want blowing away in the wind? So the first one is the windward side air dam that's going to cause air to go over the field and reduce evaporation and soil loss. The second one is you'll be cropping a very specific size due to the machine that you're driving and the labor that you require to operate said machine and harvest materials. And that has a finite limit of size. So you get the rows to that size of the machine, right? So you have your windward side row that's protecting this field. You have your cash crop. And then right after the cash crop, you're going to have a small, and I'm not talking huge, I'm talking a row of crop that is just the intermediary or a barrier, a different crop. It could be garlic, it could be onions, it could be anything. In that one little crop, that little row crop, they have a different plant. And that different plant should be slightly taller, and it could be anything, even to a small tree or bush. It could be a long-term standing crop. We like to think of like blueberries and bushes like that, blueberries, huckleberries, currants, whatever you think is going to go in that row. That could be a permanent crop for that row. And then after that row, you go back to your machine size where you're harvesting your lettuce, and it's your cash crop, and that machine size is fixed. So your row size is fixed. So the machine does less passes, gets more harvest, and you get a secondary harvest every other row, because every other row that you're operating is a different crop. And those could be very small machines that just go over the crop and harvest the crop as they go. And it might be expensive to have that machine up front, but having a secondary crop means that you won't have a total crop failure. A secondary advantage to that is that because there's not a single crop, a single pest can't wipe out the whole crop. And you have diversity in your field, not a lot, it doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to make sure that you have first crop, second crop, third crop, and they can harvest at different times of the year, and continuous cash flow can come through the system while people are being employed on a regular basis. And we can bring up the economy in our local area with high value production of fruits and vegetables while doing high production of keeping people employed at very good rates, and bringing a better product to market with less cost, less pesticides, less herbicides, less fungicides, less waste in general. And I'm not telling farmers what to do. I'm giving you ideas on how to do it. Those are some suggestions that we utilize inside of the permaculture system to change the way people think about how to build up their crop systems and not be lacking in money. We don't want people lacking in money. We don't want you broke. We don't want you to be bankrupt. We want farmers to be making an honest living at honest wages with honest money without having to take money from the government to subsidize their systems. We want farmers to be wealthy if we can. I don't want farmers out of business. I have to eat 3 meals a day. And 330 million other Americans have to eat 3 meals a day. It does not behoove us for farmers to go out of business. So here's some ideas, and we're going to share more with you as we go. Another idea, another concept is that throughout the field, again, the field, there should be perennial crops such as blueberries. Perennial crop every year. You don't have to plant it again. It comes back up, regenerates, keeps going. You also have perennial trees that would produce a crop and shade and shelter and habitat. And that can be, again, it can be another crop. It doesn't have to be just lettuce on a field. We as Americans eat a lot of lettuce. Me personally, as an American, I don't eat a lot of lettuce. I do eat a lot of apples. I do eat a lot of potatoes. I do eat a lot of onions and garlic and pepper and things of that nature. I eat a lot of other things other than lettuce. And to me, other products are more valuable. And we can crop that in here in America, in Monterey, California, because of our Mediterranean climate and we have an ideal climate for growing stuff year round. We don't get a lot of snow, if ever any snow. We get a moderate amount of rainfall. We have moderate temperatures throughout the year. In the Salinas Valley, it might get up to 100 every now and then. So there are crops that require 100 degrees at 100 days. We're not going to do those crops. We're going to send that to San Diego. Okay? We're not going to get 100 years at 100 days at 100 degrees. It's just not going to happen. But we can get in a huge amount of fruits and vegetables that don't require those heat requirements. We can get a huge amount of aquaponic crop if we want it. Aquaponics, 1 square foot of aquaponics to 1 square foot of land. Aquaponics beats land nutritional growth flat out. You cannot get as much nutritional growth on land as you can in the same area of water. Water is a wonderful product because it's a nutrient solution, so plants can uptake the nutrients consistently. They have plenty of water because of water. If the system goes toxic, everything dies at once, so everybody knows what happened. So it's typically a very clean system to operate. Plants and animals in water do not have to hold up their own weight, so they can grow larger and more robust. And you can get a larger crop volume out of water than you can out of a land-based system where things are fighting the gravity of their own weight. There's stuff like water chestnuts, Ipomoea aquatica, King Kong. There's for animals, there's cattails and stuff, typhus. There's all kinds of things that we can grow in water that, fish. You want fish? Fish grow great in water. Why? Because they don't grow on land. But fish can be grown to a volume of size and number that makes cattle production, you can't match cattle production to fish production, square foot per square foot. You'll always get more fish production, volume of weight, harvest in a shorter number of days than you will cattle production. There are no land mammals that can outproduce fish inside of a pond or water body. Just can't. Doesn't work like that. So we may want to go to an aquaponics system on farms. I have no problem with farmers having aquaponics. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. And then they could do aquaponics with fruits and vegetables. And they can make worm farms, and they could have nutrient cycles that are non-toxic to each other. And you could cycle the fish waste through a worm tower, and the worm tower could eat up the fish emulsion and fish waste and then put plant nutrient out into the plant system. And then as the plants decay, the plants could drop their decaying system back in the water, and you could have a cycle of materials eating each other and cycling. And you need some pumps and some water and solar power and some batteries. It doesn't have to be, it'll be complicated, but it doesn't have to be crazily complicated. It can be fairly simple. And you have, freshwater tanks, and you have dirty tanks, and you could filter the dirty tanks and take the filters and dump them off on the land and get a fertilizer that way. The compost. The at the bottom of the tank, every now and then you're going to scrape the bottom of the tank out for the fish emulsion and the waste products from the fish and the plants. You're going to take that, put it on land. It's a perfect fertilizer. So now the farmers don't have to pay for fertilizer because it comes out of the tanks they're using to get a crop that they can sell for more money at top dollar. Really high-end products. Yes, it's going to be complicated. There's going to be specialists in the field that are going to do this. Guess what? You're going to need to do it anyways. Let's invest in it now. What does it cost to teach people to plant food? Nothing. Take some seeds, you throw them in the ground, water them a little bit, they do the rest. You take away their competition, you mitigate their herbivore pressure, you mitigate some minor issues, and bam, you got friggin' food. And we teach people to do that all across the country in their climate-specific zones. You're not going to grow tilapia in Texas unless you have aquaponics that are sheltered. It's not going to happen. You're definitely not going to grow trout in Texas unless you have some really cold water. So there's climate-specific things. We are not going to grow cactuses in mangrove swamps. It's not going to happen. And we're not going to grow mangroves in deserts. That's not going to happen. Those are climate-specific to each other. So we're not going to grow tomatoes where it freezes. Not unless you're in a greenhouse. So we're going to do climate-specific food sources to area for climate that's appropriate with the farmers for the area, and they'll have a great product to sell because their product will work in their climate zone. Stuff to think about. If you have questions, leave them below. If you have comments, leave them below. If you have suggestions, leave them below. If you don't like what I'm talking about, talk about below. If you do like what I'm talking about, hit that thumbs up button. If you really like what I am talking about, subscribe. If you really, really, really like what I'm talking about, share it with a friend. Permaculture takes all of us. It's a holistic management system that's based in ethics. And it's an ethical design science. We want to design our way out of a problem. We need to ethically think about it. We need to take care of the planet. We need to take care of the peoples of the planet. And we need to return the surplus from the first two back to the first two. That's ethics. Okay? No lording over people, no hoarding food, no causing famines, not when everybody can grow their own food in their climate. I mean, we can be growing fruit cactus in Texas. We could be growing guavas in the south. We could be growing banyan pines in the north. We have food. We have food in every climate, everywhere. We can figure it out. Like, subscribe, share this with a friend. That's how we get the message across. That's how we help the next person. Have a great day.